Agent Morris with the NSA.
We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
The traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion. Over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or whether any direction it wanted to go. Why it could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Hello, and good evening, everybody. This is Miles Lewis, and you are tuned into another live edition of Anomaly-NOW, coming to you from Austin, Texas, deep in the heart of the planet Earth. Below your feet, do you feel the rumble? This is the weekly live news roundup show for the 501c3 nonprofit Anomaly Archives, aka Scientific Anomaly Institute. Thank you for joining us. If you aren't listening to this live, thank you for finding us. You probably are either watching the recorded archives on our YouTube channel or via the website or all the places we stream to, lots and lots of places. And or if you're listening to the audio, you're probably hearing it from, Spotify or Spreaker or one of the many podcasting platform catchers out there. And I hope you'll like and subscribe, hit the smash, ding the bell, all that stuff. It helps, and YouTube will penalize us for not promoting that. But who cares what YouTube does, right? Yeah, I feel a little somber tonight, folks. I've been dealing with a lot of emotion related to grief. Just triggered all the time, but 2 years ago began the long path towards healing over the loss of friends and family, and just late August and all of September really just gets to me. For those who might not remember, you should. There was this wonderful writer, researcher person, Skylaire Alfvegren. I got to meet Skylaire thanks to my good friend Greg Bishop. Back in 2001, we met face-to-face out in La Jolla, California, and was really just amazed and enamored with the fairy-like Alfvegren. Skylaire was one of a kind, a true anomalous Fortean freak, weirdo in the best sense. And she had founded many enterprises. You can find stuff still online at Skylaire.com, SKYLAIRE.com. You can go to this link over at Anomaly Archives, where I'll be posting more and more links about her. She was born in April 1977, but she passed suddenly in August of, that year is not right. Oh yes, 2021. 2 years ago. From her LinkedIn page, autobiography, she said, among other things, as a successful writer and meticulous researcher, I've labored in print, online, and in television. I possess nearly supernatural interview skills, a massive breadth of knowledge, and the ability to crack wise or not, depending on the temperature of the room. I can flit seamlessly between projects of divergent subjects while conveying my hyper-informed and truly unique voice. At last look, my work had been translated into 23 languages. That doesn't do her justice, but she was hilarious. Got to interview her for PsyOp Radio years ago with Mac White. And in fact, I think that was yeah. Well, anyway, that kicked off a lot of things in 2021, August. Shortly thereafter, my wife's mentor passed suddenly, and then I discovered that my dad was sick and had not been telling me because he knew I was so upset about life and Skylare's passing. He didn't want to burden me with that, and he ended up catching COVID and passing away September 18th. And in fact, we were at my wife's mentor's memorial September 11th, which has always obviously never been a good day of remembrance for me and so many who suffered worse than I. But leaving the memorial to find out that my dad had been readmitted to the hospital and was not doing well and would die within a week. So, no, I don't dislike September, but I hate it. Anyway, we've hoped to do a special presentation on Skylaire at some point. There never has been a proper memorial for her, and that pains me and many others, we've all been going through a lot of pain. So, eventually it'll happen. I mentioned my dad. You can go to my website, smileslewis.com, and I've got memories posted there of my dad from trying to celebrate his birthday. Love that guy. Didn't always agree with him. Had very different politics, but we got along, and we respected each other, and we loved each other, and that's what's most important. He was a pilot, one of many in our family, and I miss him every day. There's also, another memory of him that I did for his birthday. He was volunteer fireman, volunteer emergency services. Of course, he was formerly law enforcement. That got him into all sorts of trouble. Anywho, yes, this is the Anomaly Archives, and you can go to our website, anomalyarchives.org. We, as I said, are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the preservation of anomalous material, whether it be popular literature, research tomes, the actual research materials, or witness testimony of experiencers, witnesses, the experiments of researchers and writers. All kinds of amazing stuff. Over 7,000 books in our collection, and thousands of magazines, and hundreds, if not thousands, of digital materials. You can find there the links to our Flipboard, where we aggregate all of our news material. That is over, it's the wrong link. There we go. Over at flipboard.com. There's all kinds of links there. So here's some news that I just saw this morning. NASA to discuss unidentified anomalous phenomena report. They'll be hosting a media briefing at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow, Thursday, September 14th, at the agency's headquarters in Washington. So check that out. We've got a link to that over at the Flipboard. An interesting thing I haven't had the chance to look at from the always helpful John Greenwald of the Black Vault. DoD releases contracts with Sancor outlining work for UFO Office Arrow. And this interesting one, site of moon landing became source of moonquake, scientists find. Interesting. So, of course, the biggest news from the last few days has been these two things. We'll get to one of those in just a second, but of course, Mexican government disclosure of UFOs and UAP and alien bodies? Really? Don't hold your breath. No. As soon as I heard the news that Jaime Maussan was involved, I knew it was going to be a shit show. Sorry, but there was just no chance that it was going to be anything other than a total effing disaster. I thought that I could have sworn I saw something about Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo being scheduled to appear. I do not know if that was a hoax on somebody's part. They did not, as far as I know. I did not waste my time watching this because I knew of Jaime Maussan's being involved or behind it. And I'm not even really, I don't know to what extent this is really a government congressional event other than it being held there. But I believe there were, maybe even the Mexican president spoke. I don't know. But the most important thing, sadly, is the non-human biologicals, allegedly, that were shown, the alien bodies found in Peruvian mines. I think they're Peruvian, right? And it's the same ridiculous-looking mummies from not that long ago. One of many, many mummies that Jaime Maussan has tried to market as aliens, and the most infamous of which I was glad to participate in the group that took down that BS, the infamous Roswell Slides alien that was basically a mummified Native American child that Jaime Maussan was capitalizing on as a mystery associated with UFOs, aliens, and the Roswell UFO What's-It crash. Complete and utter balderdash. More interesting, and I hadn't really given it the time because I just thought, oh, it's Dave Grush. He's just going to be saying, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. Maybe if we have a skiff, I can't talk about that. I can't go. I only have to talk in broad overview. But a good friend, Bruce, recommended to me, hey, you really should watch this Jesse Michaels, or Michaels, whatever, UFO whistleblower Dave Grush tells me everything. I was like, who's this Jesse Michaels? And then as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, I've seen this guy. He's interviewed Jacques Vallée. He's interviewed that physicist, I think is Weinstein, and Hal Puthoff. And he's when I saw those videos sometime back, I was pretty impressed, and I'm pretty impressed with this. UFO whistleblower Dave Grush tells me everything. It's almost 2 hours long. And yeah, so let me see if we can play this, just a couple of clips here. This is where they're talking about something that it's an idea that's been around in various forms, and Vallée has kind of given a new twist on it, I think, that I really grokked after reading his book Trinity. Say what you will about that case, but here is a little snippet from Jesse Michaels' talk with Dave Grush.
I always found interesting, sort of the monolith in 2001 Space Odyssey, which is this sort of thing placed on Earth that it inspires tech innovation. It's almost like John Mack would talk about a lot of these alien sightings being slightly more advanced but barely comprehensible tech for the time, almost inspiring tech innovation.
I often think of it as laying breadcrumbs in a direction.
The communication could be, you think you're really smart because you blew up a weapon down the road here. Now, look at this.
Right.
So what interests me most here is simply, they attribute this idea to Mac, but many UFO researchers for some time have pointed out that UFO reports always seem to be just beyond the edge of our capabilities. The behaviors and abilities of the UFOs, the perceived objects or mystery lights, always seem to be a few steps ahead of our technological development. And some have seen in that this idea that it's almost as if this is some kind of a carrot or a mental game of teasing us even towards new technological advancements. So others have interpreted it as that these beings, these intelligences, maybe aren't that advanced and are just a little ahead of us, that's all that they need to deploy, because where we are, they just need to be a little faster and a little more maneuverable to stay out of harm's way from us. Not sure, but it also goes to what Vallée, I think, has suggested most recently that, and it comes up in American Cosmic with Diana Pasulka, this idea of the gifting field, where she is taken by, I forget if it's Gary Nellen or with the other Tyler mystery guy, who we all know who it is. Anyway, but they're taken to this, she's taken to this field where allegedly there's all this UFO debris that's just, you can just go and pick it up and take it away. And this idea that somehow it's almost like manna from heaven. It's like some kind of like arts parts, UFO parts, from Art Bell, being thrown by the gods, the alien overlords. And if we can but understand it, we might find some technological leap forward. But this is also kind of developed in Trinity, in Vallee's most recent book, in cooperation or collaboration with Paulo Harris, and regarding a case that many people firmly agree is a hoax. But Vallee's idea in it is that this was almost a response from the phenomena to the Trinity nuclear bomb tests. Something else that's in this documentary, or rather this 2-hour and 52-minute presentation, is talk about the connection to nuclear weapons, and that's interesting as well. Of course, I would just remind folks that our recently departed friend David Perkins, he and Chris O'Brien were some of the earliest people to really focus in on interesting connections between cattle mutilations and nuclear facilities. But maybe these things aren't related at all. Who knows? Let's see if I can find this other clip here. He starts talking about anti-gravity research, and I got to credit this guy knows stuff. This Jesse guy really knows his stuff. I'm very impressed. I already knew from those previous interviews. Yeah, he's very well read. Really knows his way around all the issues associated with this. So he starts bringing in Project Paperclip and the whole suppressed anti-gravity research, and there's just a little taste of that.
The National Secrecy Act prevented scientists like T. Townsend Brown from commercializing or even publicizing any technology which could potentially be interpreted as having a military application.
Well, we know from Shotskin's biography that Brown actually had meetings with the highest level officials in American atomic programs. People like Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb, and General Curtis LeMay, both deep insiders when it came to atomic secrets. Townsend Brown's daughter Linda even recalls that he was often taken home in a black Cadillac, driven by a man that she would eventually come to know as Robert Sarbacher. And where have we heard that mysterious name before?
Sarbacher, somebody purportedly involved in the stand-up of the stuff that I uncovered, right?
But if you look deeper, things get even weirder with Brown. In the naval records that we do have, it shows that Brown was suddenly terminated by the Navy in 1942 with no explanation, despite strong performance. 2 weeks later, he mysteriously pops up as an employee at Martin Corporation in Burbank, just 50 miles from where Skunk Works is founded a year later by legendary aeronautical engineer Kelly Johnson. Skunk Works was created to house Martin's most advanced secretive work. Over 80% of its current projects are still classified. Is it a coincidence that Townsend Brown joined Martin Corporation a year before its founding? And guess who else funded Brown? None other than Agnew Bainson, the same anti-gravity financier who helped send physics into a dead end by popularizing quantum gravity.
Okay, Townsend Brown. I want to look that up. I heard him in one of the documentaries.
Because there was this golden age of relativity in the 50s, and everything sort of went silent. And I think that's an interesting axis for you guys to look into.
Okay, this is all interesting, but I know, right? We don't have a smoking gun that any of Brown's work actually got implemented by Deep Black Aerospace. Well, that's actually not true. We kind of do have evidence.
And so he goes on to talk about the Hunt for Zero Point of the book and the research that we've talked about by Nick Cook. Great stuff. Anyway, highly recommend the video. Good use of your hour and 52 minutes time. So check it out. I think you'll dig it. Meanwhile, where are we? Back in the world of conspiracy theory, JFK assassination witness breaks his silence and raises new questions. This guy is one of the Secret Service guys who was on the motorcade during the terrible assassination of John F. Kennedy there in Dealey Plaza so many decades ago. And he has now come out by saying that he basically gives new, excuse the turn of phrase, ammunition to the regarding the magic bullet theory. This idea that one of Oswald's shots went through Kennedy, flew around aerobatically through the air, went into Connolly and through several parts of him and out of him. And then was recovered unscathed, or looking like it hadn't really been shot like there was not much action on the bullet when it was found on a stretcher at the hospital. It's a crazy story, the magic bullet theory, but it's what the Warren Commission put forth. And this gentleman basically claims that he found the bullet. He found a bullet lodged behind the seat, or in the seat behind where Kennedy was in the vehicle, and that he recovered this bullet, pocketed it, and when he was at the hospital, just unconsciously put it on the gurney with the president's body, thinking somehow, in this, at least he says in this article, and in his claims about this, that he somehow thought that might help the doctors with the forensics or something. And then he totally, this haunted him the rest of his life, the assassination, the terrible thing he witnessed. And he really didn't get into conspiracy theory and whatnot. And then years later was given a book about the assassination and read about this magic bullet theory, and suddenly realized, wait a minute, that's not the story of the bullet. And he thinks it's the same bullet. And so he's come forward with his story. He had shared it with many on the record people now over the years. Some of them believe he's telling the truth. Some are like, well, I believe he thinks he's telling the truth, but I don't think that's what happened. It's a very interesting read. I believe it's from the New York Times, but you can read it over at DNYUZ, DNYUZ.com. Interesting development. And he doesn't seem to have a political axe to grind or conspiracy theory to support. He's just wanting to, as he's getting towards the end of his life, get this off of his shoulders. And I find that very compelling, but who knows? Meanwhile, another more in the realm of JFK and conspiracy theories is this nice documentary, The Suspicious Death of Dorothy Kilgallen. And if you don't know who Dorothy Kilgallen is or why her death might seem suspicious, you should watch this 30-minute documentary. It goes into a lot of detail about her, much of which I was really not familiar with. I think I first became aware of her when one of the Excluded Middlers, one of the founders of the Excluded Middle magazine back in the 90s. Of course, that's Greg Bishop, Robert Larson, and Peter Stencil. And Peter, I believe, created a song that he made me a copy of many years later called Dorothy Kilgallen, or What Had Befallen Dorothy Kilgallen When She Found Truth About Flying Saucers. And so this goes into this, I think it connects with the whole Marilyn Monroe connection as far as suspicious deaths go, and JFK, and the idea that there's somehow UFOs connected to JFK's death and to Dorothy Kilgallen's mysterious death. But we'll have the link for that. You can check it out. I highly recommend it. It was a nice watch. On a more archival note, Here are a couple of articles of note. Over at Mediaite.com, presidential libraries of Obama, Bush, Clinton, Reagan, and more warn about state of U.S. democracy in first ever joint statement. And of course, what are they talking about? Well, this move to ban books and so much censorship and suppression that's going on in our libraries across the country. And wherever you feel you are on that issue, I think it's something, like everything, we should be talking about. And so you might want to check that out. Like I said, it's over at Mediaite.com. Another perhaps relevant news article, NBCnews.com, conservative book ban push fuels exodus from American Library Association, the National Association's defense of disputed books, many of which have LGBTQ and racial themes, as part of the reason for the library exodus. Somebody's sign in this picture saying fascism equals censorship, oppression of opposition. There's some radical stuff going on, folks, and you might want to pay attention. So, not going to tell you how to think. I just lean towards always letting people have access to information. And whether or not that needs to be PG rated for kids of a certain age. Hey, welcome back, Tipper Gore. Got your warning labels on everything. For those who don't know what I'm referring to, what was it, the late 80s? I forget, 80s, 90s? I think it was the 80s, when Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, got all incensed about the horrors of rap and metal lyrics. And that's where we got our record label warnings for adult content. Meanwhile, where is this? Oh, yes. EFR, Expanding Frontiers Research. That's the nonprofit in Utah founded by Erica Lukes and Jack Brewer, and it features other good people on their board of directors and advisory board. Of course, Erica Lukes once involved in the MUFON organization and has been long interested in UFOs and the paranormal, but pretty much got disgusted with, well, things like the Roswell slides, and also, but all the scum that infest the UFO scene, sadly. But I guess, there's scum in every community, right? A lot of them in the ufology community. Anyway, over at expandingfrontiersresearch.org is a press release about their getting ready to launch a new online archive of some of her material, some of their nonprofit's material, including the works of amazing UFO researcher Ann Druffel, among others. So very excited to see this announcement. Got to support our fellow archivists and preservationists out there, especially when they're working in the field of UFOs and the paranormal. A little birdie told me about this news item, also in Utah, coincidentally enough. PhenomenaCon lands in Utah with talk of UFOs, Bigfoot, and taxes. Of course, Erica at EFR had been drawing the local media's attention to things that she has very serious views on about certain people in the UFO community and paranormal community, especially anybody connected to Skinwalker Ranch. And it turned out that this PhenomenaCon in Utah was getting tax dollars. And, well, not everybody's happy about that. But this news story is reporting on the fact that the conference is now claiming that they're making enough money that they don't need those tax dollars for support. There's a couple of lines in the news reporting on this that might give you one pause as to whether or not that's a true statement. I think basically they allege that the person who, I guess, is coordinating the conference, their salary isn't being included in the budget. So maybe it's not balancing the bottom line. Who knows? And semi-lastly, I mentioned this movie review for Greg and Dana Newkirk's new documentary, The Unbinding. This has now been widely released, and you can find it on most of the online streaming platforms for rent or sale. I highly recommend it. I finally got to see it. I was really entertained, and I love what they are doing and think that they are good people doing good work. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them live and in person doing Haunted Objects Live here in Austin this Sunday. So I'll post the link to this review. I think I mentioned it. It may have been posted in a previous episode of this, but definitely check it out. Whatever you think about paranormal hauntings and that sort of thing, Greg and Dana are not your normal ghost hunter paranormalists. They are really part of a trend in the right direction, and I'm proud to support their community. So you might want to check that out. Let's see. I think one last thing. So for years, it may have been back in 2003 or 4. It was in the early aughts, post 9/11, when I was tuning in. I think I was listening to Greg Bishop's show, or I was about to listen to Greg Bishop's show on killradio.org when he was doing his weekly live Sunday night show. And there were, of course, lots of other DJs on Kill Radio. I think it was Kill Radio. It may have been another online streaming station, but it was, I'm almost certain it must have been a 9/11 anniversary. So it was September 11th of whatever year. And there was a song playing and playing and playing, and it's like an 8-minute song, but it was looping over and over and over, and I loved it. I was just like, wow, this is really powerful, really interesting. And in all these years, I've never been able to find out what that song was, and leave it to a younger friend of mine. And I had thought about using Shazam, and I should have, because guess what? They found it in seconds, or less than a minute. And the song is by a band called From Monument to Masses. The song is called Sharpshooter. And hopefully the stream won't get shut down if I start playing this. If it does, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to end the show with this. So we'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in. And love you all. And hey, Tim, thank you. I really appreciate it. So that's it. Good night.
Time now is 7:49. It's time now to find out how the markets are doing. Hey, good morning, America. I'm Charlie.
Well, we've got a pretty quiet morning going on, but
Dow Jones down 72 points. The Nasdaq.
The customers weren't
That's not me.
made with the same quality and care.
The low 60s. Go out and make it a great day.
Get an update on your morning commutes with
financing for a quality used. Surrender yourself to the Lord.
Airline stocks are actually rallying a bit this morning.
execute something like that.